cultural celebration in southern Nigeria is now at the center of intense public debate. The Alue-Do Festival, traditionally known as the Fertility Festival, rooted in prayers for prosperity and community well-being, has come under scrutiny following circulating videos and reports from its latest edition. While community leaders have rejected claims of wrongdoing, insisting the festival has been misunderstood, some accounts and footage suggest that criminal elements may have exploited the gathering, prompting arrests and an investigation by the Delta State Police Command. The situation raises broader questions about cultural practices, media narratives, and accountability. Joining us to unpack this is Dr. James Akpan, Research Fellow at the Durban University of Technology. Dr. James, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to The Upside. For those who do not know what the Alue-Do Festival is, please unpack it for us.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. How are you? Thank you for having me on your program. Well, like you said in your intro, it's basically a fertility festival. It's an age-long festival in that community of Delta State where, from time to time, women that have been married and have not been able to have any kind of conception or children, then some people go into this kind of situation, prayers, and all of that. And then when they are done with the prayers, they come out and then they lay their hands on the stomach of these women, and these women are believed to have fertility. So it's an age-long cultural situation in that Ozoro community in Delta State. Essentially, that's what the festival is about.
Okay, I mean, just a few things that you mentioned that were very disturbing, Doc. So let's help us establish, perhaps in the context of this particular state in Nigeria that we're discussing, help us understand the difference between what would be cultural practice and what is now gross cultural or alleged misconduct in this particular case.
That's an interesting question, because you'll have to look at it from the context of socio-cultural reality of every community. As you know, that every African communities have culture. People thrive on culture, societies thrive on culture, because essentially that is the values on which the people stand on. But now, here lies the problem. Like I said, it's an age-long problem. But if you look at it from a point of development and process and modernity, some of these cultures have become obsolete, so to speak, because, I mean, like medical sciences have proven that there are better medical ways in which you can get a lady to conceive in marriages, rather than having some kind of ritual situation where you just place hands on the stomach of the woman and then the woman is expected to conceive. That's unscientific and all that. But it used to be done in the days of our ancestors, or the ancestors, forefathers of that community, which was at that point their limitation of understanding. So that was their culture. But as society evolves, then you discover that some of these beliefs, traditional beliefs that Africans indeed generally held, begin to dissipate, especially in the light of new discoveries, scientific and medical discoveries. Let me just quickly add also that from the point of, which ties to your other question, from the point of how it used to be practiced in the past, and indeed in most communities in Africa, is that women are not supposed to, single ladies, that is, ladies that are not that are single, are not supposed to come out. So there will be an announcement that is made throughout the community, and those advising those ladies to stay indoors. So when these people come out, they'll only be relating with the women that are married, are unable to conceive after their marriages. But that also attacks, directly the issue of human rights. I mean, the constitution in Nigeria allows for freedom of movement and freedom of association, talking about modernity. So as society evolves, and the concept of law and human, especially from the human rights perspective, which Nigeria is a signatory to, both the United Nations Human Rights Charter, African Human Rights Charter, and also the Nigerian Human Rights Charter. That gives you a guarantee. It's a right, it's alienable right. Nobody can take that right away of movement. So when you have modernity clashing with tradition, you have this kind of problems.
We're currently in conversation with Dr. James Akpan, Research Fellow at the Durban University of Technology, to unpack, the concerns and the outrage that was raised during the Alue-Do Festival. And, attendees have raised quite a few alarming concerns and circulated some videos online. We'll further unpack some of those concerns and the way forward right after this.
Tebogo and Mmatsheko from the Upside. Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, says the surge to stronger external fundamentals and a series of policy reforms have helped restore confidence in the currency market. He noted that the improvement reflects increased foreign exchange inflows, more effective reserves management, and a renewed capacity to meet external obligations.
The larger foreign reserves is super good for considering the number of volume of foreign transactions that is being done by Nigeria. So it's a good indication. A second one is that it also gives the country an opportunity to be able to access the foreign reserves when they need it for maybe urgent, maybe infrastructural or any kind of developmental project.
Dennis O'Shea, a certified financial modeling and valuation analyst.
Bringing the African markets into your home. Channel Africa, the African perspective. The Upside. On the Upside, your voice matters.
23 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African Time, still in conversation with Dr. James Akpan, Research Fellow at the Durban University of Technology. As concerns were raised and social media footage and videos were circulating concerning the Alue-Do Festival, traditionally known as a fertility festival rooted in prayers for prosperity and community well-being, has now come under scrutiny following the circulation of some disturbing videos. Dr. James, let's talk about what we were seeing on social media and the role that social media play in telling the story of what happens at the Alue-Do Festival. Were they distorted, taken out of context, or was that exactly what was happening on the ground?
Well, we live in the era of what you call citizen journalism, where almost everybody is a journalist as long as you have a cell phone and that can record anything and all that. So it was spontaneous. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't say that the footages that we saw on social media was distorted in any way, because those were real-time videos that they captured on their cameras and then they posted it. Actually, what we should be looking at is the framing of the narrative, especially from the comments that followed behind. Of course, there were footages of young men, more like rascals, going around harassing ladies and all that. So that in itself is very emotive. So those were captured and also put on social media, okay, as pictures as it were. But as humans, because, we are humans, and then when we see these kind of things, and then we live in an era of increase in gender-based violence and some kind of issues that have not been so favorable to the women. If you look at the concept of feminism, forgive me, from a scholarly point of view. So it's only normal for it to generate the kind of attention that it generated, and of course there was an outrage from the female gender community, especially from the human rights community, and obviously from the government community also, because they were footages, so those footages cannot be denied, but the narrative and all that happened. Now, the interesting thing, the power of the social media in this case, is that outrage on social media pushed the government and also the community elites, the community leaders, to take appropriate action. Otherwise, imagine that there was no social media. The kind of outrage and narrative that went viral with the video, there's a high possibility that the authorities, they have, especially from the community point of view, may not have taken adequate action. They probably just try to quieten the whole situation, looking at it from an image point of view. But because it is globally circulating and it went viral globally, it forced the hands of both the community leaders, the government, and also the police to take appropriate action in clearing the situation. And we also must note that the town itself, the Ozoro town, is a university town. So you're not just dealing with people that are indigenous to the community. You also have people that have migrated from within Nigeria and from outside Nigeria to be part of the university community. There are students also living there, and some came to also settle to trade and all that. So it's grown beyond just being an indigenous event, because that town had become a university town, indeed an international town. So there was a need for them. So those are some of the reasons why there was massive outrage against it. And I think the social media, from the perspective of highlighting the situation and also forcing the hands of the authority to intervene and take adequate action, I think it is quite positive. We live in that age now where people record things and just send it online.
I think you bring up some very important issues, Dr. Akpan, in terms of, the role of social media, especially when it comes to sensitive gatherings of this nature. What role does social media play in shaping perception, in educating people about what's happening? But let's talk about, perhaps as we get to the tail end of our conversation, protection is a very important issue. The safety of communities and people is another one. So how can communities actually protect their traditions in this kind of space, as it were, where there's cameras and all kinds of narratives being shaped around this? How can communities protect their traditions? And also, how can we ensure that people are safe during these kinds of gatherings?
Yeah, okay. So first, we have to accept the fact that we do not live in that typical traditional society anymore. Modernization is taking place, civilization is taking place. I mean, for want of better word to use, civilization or modernity, I rather call it. Look, some of the traditions that we hold, and this is not just Africa alone, globally, in Asia, in Europe, and all that, some certain traditions that are held, okay, as at that time might be relevant. But as with the passage of time, where new knowledge, okay, comes to bear and all that, knowledge brings light. And the moment new knowledge comes to come, you discover that some of the traditional beliefs that we had, okay, and then our forefathers thought that they were sacrosanct, they were divine, okay, are no longer relevant because of modernity, because of scientific and medical breakthroughs. So you discover that there's a shift from that traditional pre-developmental society to post-developmental society. So there has to be cultural leaders and traditional rulers have to come to that reality. We have to come to the reality. I mean, there was a time in Europe where witches were burnt and all that, so to speak, but that doesn't happen anymore. So the state is now being replaced by laws, by institutions and laws and all that. So and then some certain days of darkness are over. Now that we have come to light and we know that some certain things were maybe based on superstition and all that. Culture itself is dynamic. It's always in a state of flux. It's always changing with the dynamics of time. I mean, according to Auguste Comte and the rest of that. So that is the reality of evolving. Some certain culture will give way to some new ways of doing things and all that. So from the community perspective, the elites in the community, cultural elite and traditional elite, will have to live with that reality and also modernize the practices and the concept without losing the essence. Because I understand the traditional, the sentimental attachment to those traditions, but they need to balance it with a new reality of the fact that more people have come to live in their communities, and there have been some scientific discoveries and medical discoveries. And of course, with the advent of the social media, where everything, I mean, you don't want to put your community there from a negative narrative point of view. So so we need to look at it from, we can't stop the cameras of the social media, of the phones recording and putting things on social media. But we have a responsibility in also trying to modernize based on new reality, new discovery, new laws, okay, to manage our community, still keep our culture that we are sentimental to, but at the same time respect the rights of people that are living within the community, the women rights. I mean, women are very important component of the community.
Yeah. Dr. Akpan, we really appreciate your time. I think the key word there, balance, very important. How do we balance culture and modernity, and how can we ensure that we continue telling the stories that are true to our roots, but also understanding that modernity, our cell phones are capturing a lot of what is happening and shining a light on perhaps things that we in previous times were okay with, but laws and regulations have to be put in place even with cultural gatherings such as these. We really appreciate your time this afternoon. The voice of Dr. James Akpan, Research Fellow at the Durban University of Technology. 31 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African Time. Let's get the latest sports.